Welcome back to Third Man In. I'm Zack Phillips, and in tonight's post-game stream, we're going to be breaking down game number 52 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season, defeating the Philadelphia Flyers in what was unnecessarily dramatic here tonight, 4-3 in overtime, moving to 28-16. I hope I got that number right. Yeah, I did. 28, 16, and 8 on the season. I mean, look, there's a couple things that there's a lot we're going to talk about here tonight. We're going to talk about Austin Matthews, 3 straight, natural hat trick, taking a 3-1 lead. The fact that this guy is now 76 goals away from Matt Sundin and tying him or taking over the lead from him for the franchise record of most goals. On top of that, the fact that he's played in 449 less games than Matt Sundin. So we'll get into all of that. We'll get into the fact that this team did manage to win this game here tonight, but we're also going to have to talk about the negative side of things in the fact that this Leafs team unsurprisingly blew a lead, and the fact that everyone in the chat has their pitchforks out for Tyler Bertuzzi, and the fact that he's still a Toronto Maple Leaf, because somehow clearly everyone has not realized what type of value this Leafs team is looking for and what type of value that guy brings to an organization, although it hasn't quite worked out so far here. Maybe, just maybe, there's something wrong with the fucking team he's playing on and not actually with him, because it seems to have worked for him when he was in Detroit. It worked for him when he went to an incredible organization like the Boston Bruins and played under a good coach and played with good line mates, but somehow when he comes here to Toronto, he's forgotten how to play hockey, and Leafs fans have just decided to hate him, and I cannot wait to see what happens when he moves on to the next team and all of a sudden goes there and is incredible, and everyone says, wow, we need a guy like Tyler Bertuzzi. What the hell happened? We need that guy here. We need that guy for the playoffs. Why did we never let him go? Why didn't he do that here? Well, maybe it's because the coaching isn't using these guys in the right situations. Maybe this is what happens with other players who come here and are good on other teams, come here, they stink, and they go on to another organization and then do well there. So we'll get into all of that kind of stuff. We'll talk about this Leafs team in depth here tonight. Before we can get into any of that, I want to remind people, if you're watching right now and you haven't already, please hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel, and turn on notifications so you get notified every single time that we go live here on this channel or new videos drop breaking down things happening, especially as we get closer and closer and closer to the trade deadline, because there's going to be a lot of stuff heating up around this team. But hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications. Now, the other thing that you'll get if you turn on notifications is notifications that I've posted in the community. For those of you who are subscribed to the channel, you would have known that I was overdoing a watch along for tonight's NHL games, looking around the league, because there was so many that started at 7 o'clock. For the Edgework channel, we decided to go live there and break down things that were happening around the league, do some pregame betting, do some live betting, and talk about some stuff that might happen going forward, as well as just react in real time to what was happening. So that's why we got here late, because we were watching other games. You guys could have come and joined us there. Would have looked forward to seeing some people there. Like I saw Meg hop in. I saw CD Corn hop in over there. So appreciate the support from you guys. But yeah, that's where I was. It's not like I'm just not on the internet. I was overdoing some other stuff. I apologize for being late here, but that was what was going on. But thank you all for waiting. Couple things here. Let's get to it. I'm not going to let people wait. There is a super chat, so let's get to that. Derek Gamble, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. As always, Derek says, be cool, Bertuzzi haters. He will come around. I know it's been half the season, but this fucker will be clutch in the playoffs. Derek, I agree with you, brother. Look, I think that there's some problems here. Like I saw tweeted out here, I saw this tweeted out by Siegel. He said, Tyler Bertuzzi played a season low 10:55 for the Leafs tonight, and in brackets, and didn't play again after a third period penalty. Look, the third period penalty was tough. The third period penalty was not good. I saw people talking about the fact like, oh, you don't want this guy to cost the team. I saw 6 1/3 freaking out already about Bertuzzi and 200-foot penalty 200 feet away from your net. You can't score goals, blah, 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 blah. I think there's a lot of other things that this guy brings. And the thing that's pissing me off when it comes to this Bertuzzi conversation is that, like, this guy all the stuff that he brings to the table, the way he plays, the intensity that he has, the passion that he has, how hard he battles, the forecheck, all of that kind of stuff. Although the other level of play isn't quite there right now, it's like all the other stuff that he brings is every single thing that we've been asking for. So I'm going to get annoyed with some of the stuff because I know Six is going to come back here and go history, looking in the rear view, history, blah, blah, blah. I don't want to hear it. I don't care about you're going to complain about history, because that stuff actually matters. When you're going to look at this team, the lack of character, the lack of identity that they've had year in, year out, and the fact that we get to the playoffs every single year, and all we say about this team is, I wish they had more fight back. I wish they had more pushback. They get pushed around. You know what? Every single team and every fan base, like I work with all these people who are fans of all these other teams, and every single one of them, the entire premise of what they're going to do when they go to face the Leafs in the playoffs, if they're going to match up against the Leafs, is just be more physical than them. Because they can't match it, they're scared of it, they won't play up to it, they're going to shy away, and you're going to be able to bully them. That's the problem to me, is like 7 consecutive years we've talked about this with this team. You're gonna get pushed around. You're gonna get bullied by this team. You go in against Tampa, you get pushed around, you get bullied. Boston, pushed and bullied. Washington, pushed and bullied. Columbus in that year in the play-in, pushed and bullied. Last year against Florida, pushed and bullied. And then it's like, okay, let's go and add some toughness. Let's go and add some grit. You've got McCabe here. You've got Benoit. You go and add a guy like Bertuzzi, and now people are like, well, he doesn't fucking score. Guys, like, you cannot just have the best of both worlds with every single player on this team. And I get that that's kind of a double thing for myself as well when I'm going to look at a guy like Mitch Marner, Matthews, Nylander, Tavares, where it's like, okay, maybe, yeah, they're not going to fight. I'm not really asking them to fight. I'm kind of just asking them to not shy away from situations or be scared of situations, but it kind of starts there. And then now we're having to look at these other guys where we're looking at guys like Bertuzzi and being like, well, he doesn't score. It's like, well, look at some of these other guys. Like, we are looking for these pieces that these other guys don't have. We're looking for that grit, those other intangibles, and the things that we're going to be looking at in the playoffs saying, I hope we have that, right? We need that because that's what pushes you over the top. Those are the pieces that you need when it gets the most intense, when it gets and becomes the most important time of the year. That's the kind of stuff that you're looking for from these guys, and they just don't have that. So now you go and add this guy, and now the conversation is, well, he doesn't score. I don't care. I don't care that he doesn't score. Obviously, I'd like him to score a little bit more, and I get that some of the level of play hasn't been there, but I feel like I feel like there just needs to be a new voice in this locker room. How come we have all these guys who come here and play these different... Look, this is the best way to put this. This team has played the same way under Sheldon Keefe since the day that he got here. Do you know how much success this team has had since Sheldon Keefe got here? None. They won one playoff round and they won one game in the second round of the playoffs that year. They won one game in the second round last year. So if we're going to look at this team, we're going to look at the style of play that's being implemented here by Sheldon Keefe, whether it's all on him or it's all on the players or it's 50-50, whatever. He's the guy at the top who's running all of this stuff and implementing it and kind of enforcing how these things are going to go. How it's gone under him has not been successful. And yet when new guys come here who play some type of different way that somehow seems to work in other organizations, he just doesn't like it. And you sit down, you play your season low 10-55 for the Leafs, and yet you get into this position now where you're playing these guys at a season low. You can't get them out on the ice. The fan base is turning on them, hating them. They don't get in a rhythm. They're not trusted by the coach. They feel like they're not in a position here where they're going to be able to play like their own game because Keefe has neutered them and is holding their balls hostage on the bench, saying you can't play that way because I don't like it. And now that you're in that spot where you can't go down that way, you can't play that game, now you're not going to be as effective of a player. So now we're just going right back to where we've been with this old Leafs soft style of hockey where it's like get pushed around, get bullied, get pushed around because Sheldon Keefe won't let you play this certain style of hockey. This is where I'm at, where it's like, okay, even if that's not necessarily the case, maybe it's just time to get a new coach in the locker room who just at least is looking at this team differently and can come in with a fresh slate of eyes. Somebody who can come in and isn't going to have these predetermined biases of some of these players that are actually going to be like effective. I don't know. Like, these are guys, like, this is what makes no sense to me. How come he's effective in Boston or in Detroit? And then when at the trade deadline, everyone is looking, saying, get Bertuzzi, get Bertuzzi, get Bertuzzi. And the Boston Bruins go and get him. Everyone sat here and punched their desks and said, what the fuck? Why didn't we get him? Why didn't the Maple Leafs get him? And then he goes to Boston and he's incredible. He lit it up in Boston. He plays on the first power play, gets in there, gets involved. His point production is great. The way that he makes an impact on the game is great. And yet all of a sudden people are coming in here pretending like this guy forgot how to score or forgot how to play hockey. You guys want to see a damning video of what happened and why I think that this might be the case, of why you've got to move away from the guy and get a fresh voice? Go on Twitter, go look at Nick Alberga's Twitter account, and look at the video he tweeted out of Sheldon Keefe talking to William Nylander. Now, we obviously don't know exactly what was said. Somebody out there, if you can do lip reading, do some lip reading and let me know. But the thing is, when I look at that video, and I go, that is one of your main problems right there. That guy is getting paid $11.5 million next year. He's getting paid $11.5 million. He's one of your leading players in points. He's one of your leading players every single year in the playoffs because he's a guy who shows up. He's a guy who shows up from a intensity perspective. He's there when you can rely on him to put up points, to be somewhat clutch, to actually show up through basically a full 60 minutes. And he's looking at the coach who's kind of getting in his grill, and he looks so disinterested in every single way that it's like, if your top players don't give a shit what the coach says, then how can we honestly expect or understand that anybody else is going to be able to respond to this guy or going to buy into his system or buy into what he's asking you? 6 1/3 says Willie made a soft play and Keefe tried to tell him to wake up and Willie wasn't listening. No, fuck 6. Like, we saw that. The problem is, and you're saying Willie needs to respect the coach. 6, the problem is that there's been a culture established partially by the top guys and partially by the coach here that this doesn't matter, that you don't have to take him seriously. That's the problem. So what are we talking about when it comes to, Nylander needs to listen to the coach? Obviously, no shit. I think the bigger issue at hand here is that A, he's not going to listen to the coach, and B, the coach is not going to do anything about it. These guys are showing you, they're showing you, 6, that they don't care. They're not going to listen to this guy. And yet you're coming here being like, oh, they need to listen to him. Like, it's not his fault. Like, fuck, at some point here, something's got to change. Even if he's a good coach, something is going to have to change. You have to make some type of adjustment. Because if you're just going to go at this over and over and over and over again for season after season after season, you're like 5 years into Sheldon Keefe here now. I don't give a fuck about his season records. I don't give a shit about his points percentages or his win percentages, nothing like that. I don't care, because all that matters to me is what gets done in the playoffs. Why is Sheldon Keefe one of the longest tenured coaches in the NHL, and yet there's no success in the playoffs? Look around in other sports. There's coaches who have tremendous success with organizations. They get fired. Dwayne, you guys want to talk? You want to talk about something here where you're gonna try to defend Sheldon Keefe? And I'm not even saying he's a bad coach. I'm not. I'm just saying there's clearly a disconnect in the communication between him and his coaching staff to the players. And it's just lost on these guys. Like, we're looking at a team who won the game here tonight. This team won the game. The problem here, where you're looking at, look at the Raptors. Dwayne Casey went to Eastern Conference Final after conference final after conference final, year in, year out, conference finals, had to play the best player in the world. Probably, I mean, I'm not a LeBron guy, but probably one of he's undisputably top 5 player of all time. Okay? I'm just not going to admit he's number 1. He's not to me. Jordan. 23. Come on. The real 23. Anyways, he had to go up and face that guy every single year. He won the Coach of the Year. He won Coach of the Year, guys. He won Coach of the Year and they fired him. And yet we're looking at this being like, Sheldon Keefe. He's got a good record in the regular season. What are we talking about? Like, these are the situations where you got to look at this team and just be like, maybe at some point something has to change. The messaging, the voice, the communication, the system, whatever. Sheldon Keefe has won one round in 4 years. And yet we're looking at this guy and you guys are, I got people in the chats defending him, being like, oh, it's not his fault. The players need to listen. Well, yeah. But like, oh my God. Maybe the voice needs to change. And then maybe the players will listen to the new guy. I don't know. I just don't get this whole like, Bertuzzi's a problem, Bertuzzi's a problem, Bertuzzi's a problem. Like, this is to the point for me where we're listening to this and watching this and I'm hearing all this stuff and genuinely just at the point of like, I am so far away from where you guys, I'm so far away from that thought process that it's not even funny to think about like people saying get rid of Bertuzzi. That's so absurd to me, that idea, because that's the type of player that you need. This is the type of player that you're demanding. And somehow this really good coach in Boston on a really good team with a really good culture, a really good attitude, they figured out how to fit him in. But here in Toronto, he's got to play the third line, and we got hashtag stone hands in the chat and stuff. That, like, what? We've gotten so accustomed to all we care about is points in the regular season. Now we get to the playoffs and it's like, oh, where was the grit? Well, you fucking traded it away. You ran it out of town. That's the frustrating stuff. All right. Bunch of super chats. Let's get into some of these. All right, first and foremost, not missing any of these. We'll start here. Maxentius Decimus. Max, thank you for the super chat. Max says, Lily looking like Riley with that drive in OT. Yeah, I mean, you want to talk about coaching decisions again here. Tuesday night against the Blues. This is obviously, okay, yeah, they won both games here, but here's the thing. Here's where I'm talking about with some of these decisions that are made or way things are presented to the media. Timothy Liljegren is obviously an offensive like a defenseman with offensive upside. Like that's what he brings to the table. He's more of an offensive guy who can at least move his feet, get the puck up ice, contribute to the offensive game. He's not over the top Erik Karlsson type of offensive guy, but he's definitely a guy who's like, he's not an incredible defenseman. He's pretty good, actually, I think. He's not playing that great this year. I think he has the ability to be a pretty good defenseman, but he's a guy who's got that offensive upside, and we always look at as, hey, he could be a part of power plays. He could take over Erasmus Sandin role and take over the second unit or whatever. Morgan Rielly goes out. Jake McCabe goes in. Why? What's the reasoning if you ask Sheldon Keefe? Well, he's left-handed, and so is Morgan Rielly. These are the things that I'm looking at, and I'm like, hello? Like, you know what I mean? Like, because he's left-handed? Just say, you know, we're looking at this guy and we think that he could bring more to the power play right now. We don't like where Liljegren's game's at. That's fine. You can call these guys out, but to say some stupid stuff like he's left-handed, if that's actually what he believes and he's left-handed, so that's why he's going to go in there, like that's insane. It's insane. It's a power play. You're playing the top of the power play. You should, as an NHL defenseman, be able to figure it out. And the guys on the ice with you should be able to figure it out as well. But Liljegren did look pretty sick in that drive. Great finish by Willie. Another super chat. CD Corn. Looking forward to Bert's Conn Smythe. Saucepan is screaming tonight. Bert's Conn Smythe is going to hit so different. When that Conn Smythe comes through, and we hit that, oh, the victory lap that is going to happen. Leafs win the cup, Bertuzzi, Conn Smythe. I'm going to be running around Bertuzzi jersey on. You guys will see me at the parade, Bertuzzi jersey, a fake Conn Smythe. I'm going to knock out my own teeth and grow my hair so that I can look like him, because that's the kind of player that we need on this team. And the victory lap, I'm not even ashamed to admit how petty it is. I know it's petty. I'm going to victory lap the hell out of it. Because I think that this is just like a soft outlook. This is a soft organization that's convinced the fan base that it's okay to be soft, when in reality you can't win like that. I'm prepared to admit that it's petty. I'm gonna victory lap it. I am. Another super chat here. Derek Gammo, was the Leafs lineup against the Blues a fluke, or were the Blues just not great? I'm confused how they look so dominant that game. Also, Matty, Natural Hattie. Two things. First and foremost, the Flyers are playing better than the Blues. All year this year, the Flyers have been playing better than the Blues, so I would say that that's kind of a lead into it. Then the other thing is kind of what I had discussed the other day in the Ewing theory. I don't know how many of you are familiar with that, but it's the idea that other players step up and fill in, because it's the next man up mentality. You have that star player in your lineup. You have Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares. You can always rely on them because they're going to get the job done. So now Riley. Now what happens when they're out of the lineup? Now what happens when you get into a spot where some of those guys are missing? Well, now a guy like Bobby McMahon and Noah Gregor and David Kampf and Ryan Reeves have to step up and play a more prominent role, a more relied upon role, a more important role in the game, because they are now going to have to take on more minutes. And you have to realize that some of your scoring is missing, some of your playmaking, your power play, your penalty kill. These things are missing, so someone has to fill in. The other part of it is that these guys are looking, saying, I'm fighting for an opportunity to stay in this lineup, to stay on special teams, to be an impactful player that Sheldon Keefe looks at and says you can and should be on the ice. So those guys just elevate their game. The problem that you can kind of get to, especially during an 82-game season, is that guys can get lethargic. Guys can get comfortable and start to get to a point where you're like, whatever, like, we're not going to lose our spots. And then when you have a guy like Sheldon Keefe behind the bench who won't sit guys, won't put guys in the press box, like won't do all this stuff to the players that it actually matters most to, but is sitting Bertuzzi for playing him for 10.55 a night, that's where things can start to get out of control, because now you're just going to have a lack of accountability throughout the organization, and you start to miss out on some stuff there. That's where the frustrating part of all this comes in. And yeah, I don't know. I think that's kind of what leads to it as well. I think that's part of what leads to it as well. I'm so tired of hearing about how Bertuzzi and these guys are the problem. Like, for 7 years, we've asked for these players. Now they're here, and it's like, this isn't what I'm looking for. Well, you've got first-round exit after first-round exit. So, maybe try something different. Maybe. Like, that gets to a point of infuriation. I just, like, I cannot understand the whole Bertuzzi hatred stuff that's going on with this team and the fan base. I just don't get it. If people want to call in, you want to tell me why you're frustrated with Bertuzzi and see if we can hash this out, I'd be happy to. Send me a message on Discord, send me a message on Twitter, send me a message on Instagram, whatever's best for you. Send me a message. I'm happy to hear from people. We're also 2 likes away here from the 50. And for those of you who have been here before, you know how this works. So I don't know why you guys haven't hit that like button. For those of you who are new, at 50 likes, we hit smelling salts. At 100 likes, smelling salts. 150, smelling salts. Like, that's just how it works. I don't know. You guys are sickos. You love the pain. You love the torture. You love all that kind of stuff. And for some reason, you like me doing it as well. So Hit the like button. Let's get to 50. Thank you, Robert. Not worried about Bertuzzi. I'm glad. 50 likes. Thank you guys for that. I appreciate it. Let's hit the smelling salts. Cheers to everyone. Whoa. Strong today. Whew. John Henderson. Panthers win, Bruins lose. Panthers tied for first in the Atlantic. If Leafs get third place, they probably get the Bruins. Thoughts? I don't know. John, I don't know. Because right now, I don't feel like there's any team that you could look at where you feel comfortable as a fan of this team that you'd go head-to-head with. I don't think that if you're a Leafs fan, you feel comfortable being in... I don't think that you can feel comfortable being a being a top player or top team, playing against a lower end team. I don't think that you can feel comfortable. I don't think that you can feel comfortable being like looking at the Leafs and being like, yeah, we're gonna play the Red Wings, play Tampa. Don't see that being a comforting situation. You go into the third or the second spot, and you're going to have to play Boston or Florida. I don't know how anybody in their right mind could think that that's going to be like a comfortable feeling for Leafs fans moving forward. Like, those teams are well-oiled machines. And guess what they do? They play physical hockey. They play north-south. They get on you hard. They're in on the forecheck quickly. They take away time and space. They put pressure on you. And they just create problems that this Leafs team is incapable of handling because for some reason they failed to just stick to their own game plan. They fail to stick to how you should be playing as an organization that had success during the year. So, why is it that I just like resetting, I just don't think it matters who you play. And we've dealt with this year in, year out is more what I'm getting to. Where like we're going to be talking about here 6 1/3 is going to be upset because we're going into revisionist history and whatever the other word is, but like we're going to go to that one because John's asking about how you feel comfortable against some of these teams. We played Columbus. That was should have been an easy walkthrough series. You blew it. You played the Habs. Should have been an easy series to get through. You blew it. It's just, it's tough from that standpoint. That's tough. Yeah, and I mean, the other point is what Derek's saying is like, who gives a shit if you're going to win the cup, bring on anyone. That's kind of the overarching theme of all this, right? It's like every single year, it doesn't matter. If you're going to be the best team, quote unquote, figure out a way to be the best team. Figure out a way to be the best team. And beat the other teams that you have to go up against. Because unless you're going to do it, then, yeah, I don't know. All right, again, if people want to call in, send me a message, whether it's on Twitter, Instagram, Discord, whatever. You guys can call in and let us know your thoughts. But let's kind of dial in on tonight's game in terms of what went on here with this Leafs team. This Flyers team is kind of the way that you want this watch has got to relax right now. This is the third time that's happened. I don't know what's going on there. Sorry. The thing that I kind of look at with the Flyers is, are they as good as the Leafs? No. But the Flyers have bought into exactly what John Tortorella wants from them. They've bought into the style of play that he has tried to instill in them from the first day that he got there. Is he a tough coach? Yes. Is he hard on guys? Yes. Is he going to be the type of player who's going, or coach, excuse me, who's going to hold players accountable for not buying into his system? 100%. They've also got a leadership group in there with guys like Lawton, Konecny, Couturier, these other guys that kind of play that way. They play an intense way that is going to bring guys. Well, Couturier, maybe not as much intense, but he's playing a style of hockey that is, I mean, Couturier is was a Selke conversation type of player before he dealt with some of the stuff that he had that held him out of the league. What even was it that he was dealing with? Can't think of it off the top of my head. But the problem is when you're going to go up against a team like the Flyers, you have to be prepared to play a hard-nosed style of hockey where they are going to finish checks, play you tough, not give up anything easily, not give up inside looks at the inside of the ice very easily. They're going to kind of take it to you from that standpoint and buy into a defensive game. Remember Tortorella with the Rangers has guys wearing the shot blockers on the hands. He's got them on the feet because he made every single player do it because he said, you're going to buy into this defensive system. His back, Taylor says. Thank you, Taylor. The way that this game started, I did not feel positively about this Leafs team tonight because I've been looking at this Flyers team and all the people that I work with kind of break down the Flyers, and it's like the way that they are on paper, it's obviously not that great of a team. The way that their organizational outlook is they're not looking to be a competitor this year. Like, they're probably jumping ahead of schedule, which they've got to be cautious of because you can get yourself into the territory that the Leafs did for years where they were this team that was always 1, 2 to 5 points outside of the playoffs. You get that 9 spot, you don't make the playoffs, you don't get the greatest pick, and now you can't recoup assets that are going to be playing on your team soon because you're picking 16, 17, 18th overall, and then you're flipping over into a situation where you're not even making the playoffs, so now you're just average year after year. The Canucks did it to themselves as well. But I think with this Flyers team is that the way that they play, the character that they have in that room is much more than just an average team. They're building something the right way. And that's kind of how they came out here tonight. And I was worried from the get-go because the way that this Leafs team plays, they'll take periods off. They'll take time off. And they did that in the third period. They also did that to start the game. Look at where we were at with the shots on goal throughout the first period. Like, the Leafs were being heavily outshot, and it felt like, to myself at least, they were being outplayed at that point. Now, when you've got players like Austin Matthews, it makes it a whole lot easier for you to be able to come back into the game. Mitch Marner also had himself a pretty good night here tonight. I will give him credit on that as well. But, you look at those guys, they're going to naturally be able to bring you back into the fight from an offensive perspective. The problem is you need a full-on buy-in from top of the lineup to bottom of the lineup for 60 minutes to have that happen. And that includes those big guys. That includes their defensive efforts. That includes the way that they play in the defensive zone. Because looking at some of the tying goals, guess who's out there? You've got some of your big players. You've got some of the big boys. You've got the guys making double-digit millions of dollars, right? They just kind of go to sleep. This has been an ongoing issue for them for now 8 years where it's like, disappear. And now all of a sudden it's a tie game and you're going to overtime. There was no need for this game tonight to go to overtime. There was zero. You have a 3-1 lead at home. You've got these guys back healthy. You've got Samsonov in net. You're playing and I don't mean this to diminish what the Flyers have done, but you're playing a Flyers team that's just not as good as you in reality, like from on paper. So what's going to take you over to the next level? Effort, buy-in, playing the system. And this team just falters. They find ways to just falter throughout games. Super chat here. Max Entius Decimus. Thank you, Max, for the super chat. Max says, Benoit fan club, super chats. I'm a huge Benoit guy. Let's talk about that play a little bit. First and foremost, I think I said that a few times here tonight. I apologize. I've been on camera for approximately 7 hours today, and I just spent 3 hours prior to this doing a watch along. The brain at this point, we're going loopy. Simone Benoit. Let's talk about Simone Benoit. Get it to 100 likes here on the stream. Let's get to 100 likes and we'll bring the smelling salts back out. That might be what I need. I'm not just going to do them not on my own. You guys got to get it there. Get to 100. Simone Benoit. That hit that he made on York in the corner was incredible. And those are the types of hits that him and McCabe have been making. Look, you don't need to kill guys out there. The objective is not to put guys through the ice, put guys through the glass, put the guys through the boards, whatever, put them out of commission. That's not what you're doing. The problem that we've had as Leafs fans for a long time is looking at this team and being like, they're even afraid to separate the man from the puck. They won't even step in front of guys to take away time and space to just remove that. It's all poke, 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 and then you get lost. You get out of place. You get burned because your feet aren't in the right position. You're not able to react quick enough. You're not able to turn and kind of get back into the play. You take yourself out because you're going like this. Now a guy's stepping past you. Whereas the difference is if you're looking at guys where you're stepping back, you're taking gap, you step over in front of the guy. Once you start to step over in front of that guy and you get in front of him there, you start to get position in front. The thing is that as long as you're gapped up to the guy and you're keeping that distance, you're square to his chest there, and you're staying with him, you can at least stay in front. And the thing is, too, if that guy takes a step across, tries to go outside on you, if you're coming across with him, you should have the ability, especially as an NHL defenseman, to be able to now turn in motion. You can now move with the guy and keep up and match feet. So you can stay, even if he's going to try to go outside of you, you can stay side by side with the guy and keep up with the play. You're not going to just get burned and just completely lost in the dust. The other thing is that if what happens here with this team for so long is the stick check. This is what drove me nuts for long times with Martin Marincin and these guys. It's like, oh, long stick, whoop-de-doo. All he's doing is just poke like this. They got the ass out. They're going like this, and they just go. Now, you go like this, you play an NHL player who's good enough, got a good enough hands, he's going to go under your stick, gone. He's burning you because you're now outstretched like this. You're not in a hockey position to be able to make a hockey move, and be able to react in time or react quick enough and be able to turn around and keep up with things. You're just going to get lost out of the play. You're going to get burned on those situations. That hit by Simone Benoit, chef's kiss. Part of it is this. That guy's wheeling through the corner with his head down. Guess what, buddy? It's still the NHL. This is still contact hockey. I'm fine with Delorier fighting him. That's no issue there. Like, whatever. It's a young guy. He's a skilled player. And Simone Benoit absolutely lit his tits up. Like, he blew him up. It's a perfect hit. It's a clean hit. It does not deserve a penalty. It does not deserve supplemental discipline. On the flip side, Delorier, the way that culture is being instilled in that locker room, they stick up for each other. They care for each other. York now knows my teammates have got my back. Is he going to go into the corner again with his head down? Probably not. But that being said, he knows the next time a guy steps up on him, he's got the confidence to know, hey, my teammates right behind me, they've got my back. They're there for me. Good for them. I got no problem with that. That hit by Simone Benoit, beautiful. Beautiful. Because the other thing is, guys aren't just going to come into Toronto zone and be like, we can skate around forever. And this is an issue that we've had with this team for so long. Where it's like you come into the zone, you can just skate, cycle, because all the Leafs are trying to do is just keep up with you from a foot speed perspective. They're not willing to get into these gritty battles. They're not willing to get into these tight, engaging, on the boards, I want to say fights, but like that's obviously not what they are. Like we're talking about like hockey plays where you're going to be fighting for the puck, you're going to be engaging with the man, getting into these scrums essentially along the boards, getting into board battles, and they wouldn't engage with that because they just want to poke and match feet. Matching feet is great, but at some point here, once you're matched with the guy for long enough, you need to engage, and they wouldn't. Simone Benoit, he's looking at this guy, comes in, head down, bang, smokes him. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Because it also just sends that message, like kind of what Riley did to the Senators the other day. You're not going to embarrass us, and you're not going to be able to just skate around our zone freely without being touched. Perfect play. I also want to say this. Delorier, that's a fucking terrifying human being. Like, good for him, and he's found his role, and he bounces around teams a little bit, but holy shit, that guy's scary. Like, with his helmet on, with his helmet off, on the ice, off the ice, that's a scary dude. Good for him. Even Simone Benoit was like, I'm going to fight this guy. I got to fight this guy. Whatever it is, what it is. Shout out to Simone Benoit, because I would have stood in there in the fight as well, but like I would have been shitting my drawers. Benoit looked fairly comfortable in there. Good for him. Delorier terrifies me. Delorier terrifies me. The other thing, I saw a comment. I also just wanted to address this. I saw someone say Benoit turtled. Benoit fought him. Watch the fight back if you want. Benoit fought him. Once he fell down, that was when he was like, all right, like, he swung, he missed. Dude, I don't blame him. If any of us get in a fight with Delorier out there and you swing and miss on that guy who's so solid on his feet in a fight, you're probably going down too. He misses, hits the deck, and he's like, all right, enough. Like, what am I supposed to do? So don't give me the garbage about he turtled. He didn't. He stood in there. He took it. He lost the fight. He went down and he was like, all right, I'm out. Like, I stood in there. You had your chances to punch at me. I'm done, man. Like, you got me. So don't give me the garbage about him turtling. I don't want to hear that. Another super chat. Robert Smith. Is AM34 any good? Robert Smith, thank you for the super chat. And funny enough, that's what I said. That was what I was saying. I was on my stream or doing the live watch along on the Edgework channel there, and I said, "Is that any good?" You got this guy, natural hat trick, 3 straight from Matthews, 3. I mean, I guess we can't really say 3 different kinds of goals, but like 3 kinds of varieties of goals that Matthews scores there. Like, first one is just the curling wrist shot where he's coming through the neutral zone, picks up the pass, the beautiful stretch pass from Marner at the blue line, steps in, rips a shot, tie game, beats the guy over the pad. Like, that's just I'm a better shooter than you are a goaltender. Let's go toe-to-toe, and I'm just going to rip this thing past you. Tie game. Then Matthews down over onto the down along the. It's not necessarily a half wall, but he's kind of in the position over by the side of the net, open for a one-timer, slightly above where the goal line is, kind of in the rock star zone there. Marner hits him with the pass, rips it short side past Samuel Harrison. Beautiful shot, great pass by Marner as well. Third goal, Matthews steps in, just fires that thing with the patented toe drag release, beats the guy in underneath his stick over the pad. Just, the thing for me is when I look at this guy and everyone's like, well, you got to go for it every single year that you have Matthews. I understand that to a degree. The problem is you can't just mortgage every single thing you have on it because you have one guy. Like, not at the deadline. In the offseason, sure, the way you shape your team, you should be going for it every single season, every single year when you have that guy. 100%. I agree with that fully. But you can't just be like, oh, we have an average team here at the deadline. Let's go crazy. You can't. You need to you need to protect assets, you need to manage things because you need to be aware and realistic of the team that you have. And I don't think that this team is that great. It's not that I don't think they could go on a run. I think that's probably the best way to put it. It's not that I don't think they could go on a run, but I think that when you break down how this team is operating right now and the fact that they're not going to change Keefe, like they're just not at this point. We need to understand that. They're not going to get rid of him here during the season. They're not going to bring in a new fresh voice. If anything, they would promote Boucher likely, Guy Boucher there, to step in and take over for the rest of the year and then try to decide what to do in the offseason. But I think you kind of just have to be realistic with the roster. I think you have to be realistic with how this team is built out, how they've been playing, and I just don't think that this is where you go nuts on these guys. I don't think that this is where you go nuts on this team. Can you do the Matthews hat trick, Selly, again? Wasn't the hat trick Selly kind of chill? Am I wrong? Maybe I'm confusing the... Am I confusing the second... What was the hat trick, Selly? I gotta find it. I gotta find the hat trick, Selly. Maybe the next guy here on the line can help us out and let us know what the Selly was, and maybe remind me here. But bringing in the first caller of tonight's stream, a man I had the pleasure, actually, of getting to meet. Let's welcome our first caller. I'll hit the animation here.
We're gonna have to go right to ludicrous speed.
Prepare ship for ludicrous speed.
All right. Rob, how's it going? Welcome to Third Minute. I think you called once before here on this channel.
On this channel, yeah. I think it's been a while, so I figured I'd make an appearance tonight. It's been some time, but yeah, thanks for letting me call in.
Well, thank you for calling, and I appreciate it. I mean, just absolutely in different heaters of rants throughout the course of the show here tonight, and I feel like people might be getting tired of some of that because we're trying to do game breakdowns, but then it turns into general outlooks on the season and what's going on here and the patterns that are developing and all this nonsense that's going on. So nice to have someone call in and maybe break it up a little bit. But first, before we can get into anything, I need to know, Rob, do you know or remember what the Matthews hat trick Selly was? I'm trying to find it online. I'm searching it up right now.
I'm trying to think about it actually.
Yeah, that's what it's like. For some reason, it's escaped my mind.
So one thing I can say, I don't know if it wasn't his celebration per se, but I think Bobby McMahon said something to him on the bench and he smiled after. I thought that was pretty funny. I don't think that was his celly per se, but I just saw it. Like, usually he's really serious when he scores, right? He doesn't really smile, but Bobby McMahon getting a hat trick last game, I think he like chirped him a bit or said something, and you could see him laughing on the bench. So that's what I remember. I don't remember his celly exactly though.
Okay, I searched it up. I was right. He did do what I thought he did. He just did like the little twirl and went like this and then walked over, skated over the boards. It was just a casual Selly. The comment that was thrown in the chat there, I was thinking I missed something and he had like some insane Selly, like Solani shooting the glove and stuff, but no.
Yeah, no, it didn't stand out to me, but it doesn't surprise me, you know, especially with the 5th hat trick of the year, tying a previous record, which was, you know, some time ago, right? So I think, I don't know. I think we're kind of in the same page. I'd have to say I did call in, or sorry, I did tune in on after the Riley game. That was a worse rant than tonight. So you're doing all right.
on Saturday. On Saturday.
Yeah.
Yeah. That was a heater. I was fired up after that one. So
I was too, actually.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to get to this. There's a lot we can get to, and I'm sure there's a lot you want to cover as well, considering you want to call in here tonight. So I do want to get to that, and I don't want to dismiss anything, but there is a super chat here. So let's get to that first. All All right, super chat here from Michael. Michael says, I might be crazy, although Bertuzzi's not scoring. However, I really like his Gilmore style of play a lot more than Mitch. Rob, quickly here, let me throw in my thoughts. I don't know that we could say Bertuzzi's playing a Gilmore style. I don't know that that's fair to Doug Gilmore to say that Bertuzzi right now is playing a Gilmore style. And then to say we like it more than Mitch, I don't think Mitch is turning it on here. There's still a lot to be desired from Marner's game for me from a all around general aspect of how he plays and what he brings to the table. But that being said, what he's really good at, he seems to be kind of figuring out right now, starting to get things rolling. Look, it's no secret how I feel about Bertuzzi. I opened the show with it. I had a heater of a rant there. I think we talked about it on Tuesday night. I don't really want to get too far back into it. I wanted to address Michael's super chat there. I think Gilmore's style of play is a little bit of a stretch. But, I mean, Rob, I'll give it to you, give you the floor. What are your thoughts on Bertuzzi and how he's been playing so far this year?
So I think we're pretty aligned, Zach, in terms of Bertuzzi. What I can say is, other than the stupid penalty tonight, which was a little bit like kind of over aggression, I guess you could say, I'm
Yeah.
liking his style of play. I guess if that makes sense, like just the greasiness. I think you and I talked about when we went to the game. I
Yeah.
think like he just goes in the corners. He's just really hard to play against. Like he's just annoying, and he like he slashes. He kind of like takes the body. He like doesn't. He's just not scared to get physical at all. And I think he's been in the right spots. And even see him skate down the ice kind of on the breakout tonight. I'm like, he has decent speed. Like, I think it's just a matter of time for him, and he's getting a lot of opportunities. So I know when they interview him, like, they kind of ask these standard questions, and he's kind of like, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And they ask Keefe, and he says the same thing. But I think, like, let's forget what his salary is, and let's just, you know, kind of keep the ball rolling, I guess you could say, because he's getting really close. And like I think once he scores one, it could come in bunches. And I think the style, like I said, his style of play matches what the Leafs need, but he needs to kind of add the scoring, obviously, aspect to it, right? So I mean, the
Yes.
style's there, but like the execution's not. So that's what I would just say with him. So I like him as a player even before he came. And like production's not there, but at the same time, like he kind of plays playoff style, and he's had ups and downs this year. Don't get me wrong. I'm not like saying I'm happy with his performance by any stretch. I just
No.
like his style of play, and I think it fits. Meaning, it fits a spot in the Leafs lineup that they need. They just need more of that to some degree, especially on the back end. So that's what I would say. And yeah, so that's not like a Gilmore style, but I think when I think Gilmore style, like there is aspects of that, but also there's the execution, and he's just not like Bertuzzi's not doing that. And Marner's like not even in the same ballpark as either of those guys. He doesn't play anywhere near the
Yeah.
style of those two. But not saying that in a negative way, by the way. They're just not the same
Yeah.
players at all.
Yeah.
And then like you said about Marner, I see him starting to kind of pick it up a bit. But one thing I was actually thinking to myself, and maybe you can give me your opinion on, um, the big difference from this year to last year to me, and it literally jumped out at me, was is I should say, last year his PK was really good. Like
Mhm.
he was very mobile, and he had a lot of breakaways and a lot of opportunities. He's had some this year, but I just find that's a huge like I don't know. I find he's less effective on the PK. Let's just put it that way. I think that's a gap for me, that he was just so lethal. Even a couple seasons back, if you think about it, right? Their PK was really good. Yeah, I don't know. Like I said, that's one of the gaps for me. I just I don't know why when you were talking about Martin, I was like, yeah, the
Yeah.
PK is just not there this year. I know like overall the team's not as strong in the PK, but his play specifically doesn't stand out enough to me that like it used to.
I think that to start the season, part of the problem, and maybe that's kind of leaking over to us here now. Like, I know you and I had a chance to talk about it a little bit, but the way he started at the beginning of the year, I think was so underwhelming that 5-on-5, power play, like penalty kill, all of it was looking not great. Like, it just looked like he wasn't performing at the level that he was before. I don't think he's necessarily a liability, but I think that the word you use, that's the best way to describe it, is how he was lethal before, and now it feels like he's not lethal. I honestly, I can't really pinpoint what that might have been. The change might have been. I think that there was just a slump that was going on at the beginning. It took him a long time to get out of it. I feel like it might start to change a little bit.
He had a
here.
slump last year as well at the beginning. It was like the first 10 or 12 games, but if
this one just lasted
went
a
on
lot longer.
There you go.
Yeah. But I think that as far as like the penalty kill goes, I don't know. I mean, the one thing that I keep looking at is like, I think the penalty kill as a whole is just not as good. Part of that probably would be that Marner's not as lethal. I think the other thing that we can also look at here is like, you know who hasn't been playing that well either, who's also part of it? David Kampf hadn't been playing that well. He's a big part of your penalty kill, and he just objectively wasn't playing that great. That's going to bring down the penalty kill as a whole, probably make Marner not look that great. You know who else hasn't been playing that great this year as in general? TJ Brody. He's also a big part of that penalty kill, so he's out there every single time. So now there's two other guys on the ice. Yeah, and so like I don't think it's just pinpoint straight up on Marner of like, hey, he's not that. He obviously himself wasn't performing at that kind of level, but I also think that there's some other pieces going into it of other players around him who were also slumping or also not performing at their peak. That is just going to make the penalty kill as a whole worse, which is going to. It's kind of two-part, right? Like you think about like, oh, that concept of turning defense into offense. Like sometimes your best offense is your defense because you're not letting the other team score, and now it's giving you opportunities at the other end, which can happen on the penalty kill when everyone's locked in. Now, if everyone's not locked in and they're not playing that well, you're probably not getting as many stops. The other team's probably getting more high-danger opportunities. Maybe you're not getting the puck on your stick at the same rate, which is now just going to kind of make us, you and I, sit here and have this conversation of like, oh, Marner's not as lethal, which you're not wrong, but I don't necessarily know there's that other factors. It's like fully on Marner there. That's kind of my perspective.
I agree with you for sure. And his anticipation's not, it's not there as it was either. So that could be a combination of like, you know, confidence with his teammates as well, right? So, anyways, I think that's too much on Marner because there's probably other aspects we can talk about. You know, we don't want to talk about the pouting little kid thing, so let's move on.
Yeah, let's not get into that. Well, there's one thing before I give this back to you. There's one thing that I just wanted to say as well, and you kind of brought it up when we were talking about the Bertuzzi stuff, and people in the chat are still going on about Bertuzzi. Is like, I'm not saying Bertuzzi's playing great and the points just aren't there. I'm more saying the style of play that this guy brings is the style of player that we're going to need and want. And so that's where I'm saying, like, pump the brakes because, like, I just feel like there's, again, other factors that are going into this, and maybe I'm coping or coming into this being like, oh, like, this isn't all his fault, like, there's other stuff, but, like, I just think that the team as a whole isn't that great. I think that Sheldon Keefe is probably not putting this guy in the best situation for him to succeed. It feels like after that first game of the year where Bertuzzi came in against the Habs and jammed at the goalie and ended up getting the penalty, like Leafs fans were like, we love this guy. And the teammates were saying they love the style of play that he brings, and Sheldon Keefe sat him down. And then it was like, well, wait a minute. And then now what do you think Bertuzzi's going to do? You think he's going to play his game? It feels like he kind of got neutered a little bit from that perspective, which is going to kind of take away or detract from what he is. Now, the offense needs to be there. And he is having games where he's not being that good. But I think that just general blanket statement of like, get rid of this guy, that's where I'm losing my mind on this and probably over defending Bertuzzi to a point where it's like, It's just like, look in Detroit. He was a good player there every single time the Leafs played him, or you turn on the TV, you're like, this guy pisses me off, and he pisses me off in the right way, where you're like, I wish that guy was on my team. Now all of a sudden he's available at the trade deadline last year. We're all looking, going, let's get Bertuzzi. He goes to Boston. I was pissed because I'm like, if
They
we
were
have to run into
close on him
Boston,
too,
like,
actually.
yeah, and we're looking at it like if we have to go in against Boston and Bertuzzi, like, and the guy that we didn't get, I'm gonna be pissed again. And then now he's here on this team, and like Leafs fans are like, "Oh, this guy fucking sucks." And it's like, well, like, whoa, wait, what the hell happened? Like, I think I think he's gonna go to some other team next year. He's gonna go to like, I mean, like obviously Cat. I'm just throwing as a ridiculous example. He's gonna go to like Vegas, and they're gonna be like, be a little piece of shit, and he's gonna be like, "Yep, that's who I am," and then he's gonna be sick again, and Leafs fans are gonna be like, "Oh, what happened? Like, why didn't you do that here?" Well, maybe, like he just wasn't allowed to play his game. Maybe he was put in the wrong
I think
spot. I don't know.
he is overpaid just generally anyways. His deal before
Probably,
was around 3.5 million, and I think he's still a 3.5 million player as of right now. Like
probably
I
fair.
don't
Probably
yeah,
fair.
yeah. I just think the five and a half is too much.
Yeah,
Maybe it's a
probably fair.
4. No, maybe it's a 4. But yeah, I don't think he deserved an upgrade in terms of his salary. But I guess his playoff last year was really good as well. So let's hope that this year is the same, right? So
Yeah. All right. I just kind of wanted to say that because I know that I've defended Bertuzzi a lot. I wanted to make it pretty clear here. It's not that I think he's like incredible and the points aren't there. I think that there's just like it's pissing me off because I'm going, you know what kind of player people are like looking at being like we need at the deadline? Konecny or Lawton or Carrier from
it's the
Nashville.
same
And it's
thing.
like, well, like these guys are like little piss ants who like get in your grill and do all this stuff. And I'm like, well, maybe they play a different style or do things a little bit differently, but like they kind of have that same roots that
Yes,
Bertuzzi
of
has. And I'm
course.
like, it's like, oh, like let's just relax a little bit. I don't know. That's kind
Yeah.
of where I'm at because I think that this style play
Yeah,
is what we need.
yeah, their main issue is defense. Like that's like you can listen to every um you know, commentator or any media or it is defense, right? That's the
Yeah.
issue, which is a multiple kind of layered conversation, right? It turns to conversation about like toughness and like kind of being more physical. It turns to breaking out the puck better. It turns to like less defensive lapses. Like you could go on, right? Like, and
Yeah.
you can't. Yeah. So to me, like to think that they're going to get a forward, I don't know, maybe a small piece, but I just
Yeah.
don't think that's the issue. So imagine you have the supporting cast getting the puck, broken out quicker. Imagine, a little bit less on them in terms of, kind of back checking, which they need to do anyways. But I mean, yeah, it's just, yeah, a little bit stronger core and defense, I think would also, impact these players that maybe are underperforming kind of more positively. So that's kind of like where I think we're at. So yeah, I know just to think about who is getting paid what and they're not worth it and they're not good is really not going to get us anywhere at this point. So let's
Yeah.
to your point, same with the coaching. Like I don't dislike Keith at all. Like I'm not his like number one fan either, but I think I think you dislike him probably more than I do. But yeah, so that's another example. Like they're not changing him, guys. They just re-signed
No,
him.
they're not.
Like
Yeah.
he makes mistakes, but I find like he ebbs and flows with the team too, right? So I think imagine there's a little bit more strength in the back end, there's more consistency. He would probably not do so many like, random like to some degree, like I think he went to the extreme this year. That's the only problem. Like last year there was some of it, but it's like some things this year, like you just scratch your head and it's like I feel like he's playing for, or sorry, coaching for his job, right? So
Yeah.
yeah, it's not necessarily something he would have always done per se either, right? So that's kind of my opinion on that. But yeah, the defense is still our really weak spot, right? So it's almost like borderline concerning at this stage. Minus the one line
Yeah.
or one
Well,
pairing, I
yeah.
should say,
Yeah.
which I
Um,
probably want to talk about too, by the way, at some point.
Yeah, well, let's get to that. Let's get to the pairing. I want to hear your thoughts because I mean, you and I had got to talk about it a little bit. I've talked about how much I love Simone Benoit,
Yeah,
how well those guys are
Benny
playing
the
together.
Butcher. Yeah,
Yeah, let's
yeah,
let's get to it. Talk to me about this pairing
for
and how
sure. And
much you like them, what you like about them.
yeah, I think you brought it up. Maybe it was a couple. post games ago. I'm trying to remember, but you mentioned that um, when we went to the game, obviously, really good seats so we can see what was happening. And he was just like right in front of us a couple times at some point where he's like, yeah, you could skate up and make a risk to get that, but no, he just stays back and he just knows his game. So that's just like a continuous example. Like every single night, I see him doing the same thing, and it's
Yeah.
good, it's fine. And whoever said he like turtled in the fight tonight, I also disagree. Like, do people realize this guy's not a fighter? He's not a fighter. He plays physical and he kind of plays his game, which is like a stay at home, kind of like he'll obviously lay the body and stuff, right? But he's not a fighter. So like he's going up against like has no choice going up against like one of the heavyweights in the league, right? Yeah, what is he gonna do? The guy's way big. Like he's don't get me wrong, Ben was pretty big in comparison to I would say like the average player, let's say. But like you're going against like a guy that's like Deloria. It's like a different conversation, right? So
Mhm.
yeah, he continues to impress. He's just elevated even probably from those games that we saw because like that game was like at least what 20 games ago or something. Like it's a decent amount of time. And I feel like
Yeah.
since he's been with McCabe, which I think kind of started around the same time, I just
Yep.
like it because they play a very similar style. But I think, I like McCabe more and more, to be quite honest with you. Like the guy's getting beat up really
Well,
bad,
he settled in
like
here
every
too, it
game.
feels like too,
Yeah,
right?
is so he got an injury and he came back and then he started settling in. And then now he has a consistent, kind of partner in Benoit. I think it's a good match. They're both physical. I
Yeah.
think puck moving wise, like obviously McCabe's better than Benoit, but like Benoit kind of stays back. So like, not to say that McCabe's offensive per se either, right? So he's kind of, he's like a hybrid of some sort. But like, 2 million bucks and 50% retained, so 4 million. McCabe's worth
Yeah.
4 million all day, right? So
Oh,
like I think that pairing is what we need more of. I have obviously Riley is going to be the more offensive kind of top pairing. It's just how it's going to be. Like you said, TJ Brody not looking good this year. Last game looked really good against St. Louis, like on his correct side, I should say. So yeah, so that kind of limits things as well. And Gio and Lily, they're just not there. Like it's just guys, we
it's
can't.
not.
Like I love Gio. Don't get me wrong. He's just really beaten down, and he's old right now.
He feels
He's
a step
really,
behind every
yeah,
time, right?
he is, and he's still like leadership wise, the guy. Like I love the guy in all other aspects. But this year is a big step back. Last year was a step back as
Yeah.
well, not as severe, right? Because he had a couple games where he was forced to sit in terms of like a games off and things like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's rough right now, and Liljegren's it's not working. It's really not. And like I don't hate him either, but like really, yeah, it's just a guy, So it's really hard. Like even if you just kept Brody, they need like a solid for
That's a good
sure.
way to put it, actually. Sorry, Rob. That's a good way to
Yeah,
put it. I just wanted to jump in.
yeah,
Just a guy right now. He's just a
yeah,
guy. Like he's not really
yeah,
like doing too much great. He's not doing too much bad, which
yeah. But we
oftentimes
need
can be
more out
good.
of
But
him,
this is kind of
obviously.
like a dude.
Yeah,
We need more kind
yeah,
of spot where you're like,
yeah,
"Ugh."
yeah,
Right now you can't be just a guy.
yeah. Exactly. You're getting paid 5 million bucks, right? So
Yeah.
he's definitely regressed this year. So
Uh,
yeah, they need to do something in the back, and I just don't know if it. Yeah, I'm skeptical on doing a very small one or they're gonna go big, and I just don't see them going big. It's not happening this year, guys. I have a hard time right
I don't think it
now
should.
being confident to no me either. I have a hard time being confident. I obviously Leafs are my team about like they're gonna go all the way this year. Could I
Yeah.
see them going past one round? Yes, because as we've seen the inconsistencies, I've
Yeah.
seen some more physical play just overall, I guess, over the last little bit where there's signs like the Riley thing. Like, let's not get into that, but I was supportive, and to say the least, like not the cross check to the head, but what happened in terms of the pushback.
Responding.
Yeah, yeah, like that made me happy. I'm like, finally, like what's going on? So I just yeah, so the inconsistency where they're playing really, really good and then they're not good and they're up and down, that still works in the playoffs. It
Yeah.
doesn't necessarily, it's not a formula to win consistently, but I wouldn't be surprised if they could win the first round against whoever, maybe add some people. They're just not going all the way. And so I think it's not a down year. And I agree with, oh, okay, we have Austin Matthews. And so it's a team sport, right? So, he's insane. Matthews is my favorite player. The guy can score in any way, crazy 45 goals, just like so easy, right? He could have had like five
Yeah.
goals tonight, like easily, like even more than five. Like he was so close on a couple, right? So that's kind of where I see the team now overall. So I just don't know about the trade deadline. And then they're going to do something on defense. They have to. They have no choice. I don't think there's any option. There isn't an
Yeah.
option. You have to. Like they can't go into the playoffs with what they have right now. It's just yeah, it's embarrassing almost. Like,
Yeah.
do you not agree?
Like, yes, I just am like, the thing for me is,
What's the
and I don't
cost? No
know.
rental and long term. That's what it needs to be. That's what
Yeah.
needs to be considered, I should say, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Like, my thing is, if you're going to go out and get one of these guys, like, you're looking at a team. I would prefer to look at a team who's moving a guy like, okay, better way to put this. You're looking at acquiring a guy with a contract like what you did with McCabe.
Yeah.
If you're going to spend,
Yeah, for
you're going to
sure.
go out and
Yeah.
get this.
Two or
Get a
three
guy
years
with
and
two
yeah.
years, 3 years. Get a guy with a year and a half, where even if it's after just this season, you've got another one out of the guy. Get that guy. Get that guy on the good contract, and go and find a way to bring them in so you can lock up some security and term. Like these rentals again, man.
It's not
Like, because
happening.
the other thing here too, Rob, like, you know what happens year after year after year, where it's like that asset becomes even
The
more
cupboard's bare.
wasted. Is like, okay, we go out and trade for Ryan O'Reilly. Where's Ryan O'Reilly this year? He's in Nashville. Where's Nola Chari? He's in Pittsburgh. Where's Luke Shen? He's in Nashville. These guys leave. So you get them for 3 months. You don't have the success, which obviously it's not like getting them guarantees success, but you don't have the success. Now the asset that you spent has been even diminished even further for you, or hurt you even more, because that guy didn't come. That guy
There's
didn't
no
come back.
retention.
That guy didn't
Yeah.
sign back. So you're going to go out this season and spend on these guys who could potentially or will potentially leave at the end of the year? Not worth it to me. I just like don't look at this year like that. And I'm not saying that they are the Florida Panthers, but why don't you just treat this like what Florida did last year, where Florida was like, you're in this middle bubble. You're not in the mix in terms of like being one of the upper echelon teams right now at this point in the regular season. You're not all the way in. You're not kind of at that point where we can trust you to say you're a Stanley Cup contender this year. They also went and they made the trades of Huberdeau and Kachuk, and you sign guys back and get Montour and bring these other pieces in. Where they looked at the team and they said, we don't think that the way that this team plays right now is worthy of us going out and spending assets. Prove to us that we were wrong. Like, go out there. You're a team that's fighting for a playoff spot. Go out there and just see what you can do. You've got the horses here. You've got Matthews, Marner, Nylander, Tavares. Like, it's not like you're like missing those. You've got the goaltender that you had last year anyways. You've got the entire decor essentially that you went into the playoffs with last year, outside of Luke Shen, obviously. But outside of that, it's like, guess who was here on this team last year playing in the playoffs? Riley, Brody, Gio, Liljegren, McCabe. You added Benoit. Like, Timmins was here. You know what I mean? Like, you got these pieces anyways. They were here. You've got the core guys. They were here. Run this into the playoffs. You want to make a tweak here or there, that's fine. But what are we talking about going and selling first-round picks and stuff on this? Like, I don't think that this is the season to do so. I just don't.
No, I agree.
Rob.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say one quick thing that I saw someone on the trade board that I really like that we talked about last year and years prior is Chychrun is back on a trade board list at number 3. I just saw before this call.
Yeah, I know.
I might be dreaming, but I'm just like, yeah, I think we feel the same way about him too. So, anyways, he's a little bit
Look, I'd be
injury
happy to
prone, but
get
like
him.
he would be sick. Yeah, of course. Yeah,
But
that's like
here's
a
the other
contract
thing.
guy.
1 second, I'm pulling it up. Sorry. 4.6 million this year and next. You know what the problem is? He plays for the Ottawa Senators in division rival. Probably just adds a tax to it
Yeah, maybe. I just
because
think
they're looking
I
going.
just like
We're gonna
him.
play this guy again next year as well. Yeah, no, I like him too.
Yeah,
I like him too. Okay, Rob, I'm probably going to try to wrap this up here soon. I
yeah, sounds
want
good.
you to be on for the play of the game and the grade as well. But before I can get to those, you did want to call in, so I do want to let you kind of have the floor here as well. Is there anything else you were looking at from tonight's game in general, or anything that you wanted to bring up, ask questions about, or just any points that you had?
Yeah, so I think I brought up obviously defensive pairings and that. Yeah, just inconsistent game, bad first period, bad third period. I only like the second period was Austin Matthews show, and yeah, like I guess not to guys more on a positive note, the physical play was pretty decent tonight. Like the Flyers are pretty big, a lot of their players, and they play a style. And I think we didn't do that bad in the competition department in that aspect. I think there was some physical play, and not to say at their level, but at least it was like a battle of some sort, right? So
Yeah.
that's again like it's a trend, it's an upward trend for them. So like, yeah, let's see how that continues. But no, other than that, again, I just like Austin Matthews obviously kind of put them on his back, and then we kind of squeaked it out at the end. Again, it's a Leaf game, right? Like I don't have anything else to say, but it's a Leaf game,
Yeah.
right? It's a
Yeah.
Leaf type of game. They won. Let's keep the ball rolling, a couple games in a row, and we'll see how it goes. But that's about it. Yeah, again, like not impressed at all, but at the same time, not terrible either. So
Yeah, that's what like. Look, obviously we're doing game recaps. We're talking about stuff that happened here tonight, but like earlier on, 6 1/3 is getting mad, being like, "Why are we talking about the team as a whole? Like, let's get to a game recap." Honestly, I might just cut the exact clip of what you just said, Rob, and I might just play that at the beginning of every single show here now, and like what Robert Smith is saying in the chat. Perfect Leafy game. How did you describe it, Rob? You said that was a Leaf game. Just like that's bang on. There's no other way to put it. Like I know that people are like, oh well, it's NHL, like whatever. Like maybe that sounds like a stupid statement, but like if you watch this team, you know exactly what Rob's talking about. You know exactly what Robert Smith's talking about in the chat. Like that was a Leaf game. You kind of weren't all there in the first period. Austin Matthews scored 3 straight goals in the second period, and then you blew a 3-1 lead in the third period, and then William Nylander closed it out for you in the overtime. It's like you weren't there in the first. Your best player was your best player in the second period, and you were kind of like half in, half out. Let's get the fuck out of here. In the third, they tie it up, and now all of a sudden you're like, what, how are we gonna blow this one? And then Willie scores an OT, and it's like, oh my god, like this is Leafs hockey. Like it's like
yeah,
the same thing. It feels like the same thing every game. Now, obviously, we're gonna continue to break them down, but it just feels like the same
yeah,
thing every night.
agreed.
All right, let's get to it here. 2 things left before we close this show out and wrap things up. First and foremost, let's get to our play of the game. All right, Rob, floor is yours as the guest. I appreciate you taking the time to do this here. Why don't you give us your play of the game here tonight?
I just think the hat trick goal for Matthews, natural hat trick. I just like the hesitation as well. What in terms of when he kind of was crossing the blue line. Yeah, just the shot was signature. He scores in every way, as we know, as we talked about even tonight. But yeah, I just think it's another cherry on top for him this year, and the records of Sittler and McDonald versus like now Marner and Matthews have more points together. Like, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just the whole thing. Yeah, just I think there's no other real option there. Like, obviously, the overtime win's great. It's fine, but to me, that was the play of game because it just reminds you of his talent essentially, right? The player that he is, and just the like I said, the differentiation between goals and just the guy just does whatever he wants basically. And the goals
I'm
he's
gonna
scoring with aren't even really like they're like low glove
I
it's
know.
like he could just do
Wasn't it
whatever he
three straight
wants.
that he did that? He did the first
Yeah,
one where he curls
he did
through,
the one
gets the
timer.
pass.
Yeah,
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 one
yeah,
timer, low glove, and then the third one I
yeah,
think was low. Like this guy's sickening,
for
sickening.
sure. So that's mine
Uh,
for the play game.
that's fair. I'm gonna go for mine. I kind of wanted to go the hat trick as well. I'll go away from it because you gave that one. I think that's fair. With I'm gonna go with the second goal because it kind of has just been a display of Matthew's range and his ability to score in all these different ways. You want to drive the net and do power forward moves. You want to go and get tips. You want to get rebounds and be around the net. You want to have him skating through the neutral zone, getting stretch passes from Marner stepping in, taking shots. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh, this guy's added a one-timer to his bag. Like he's scoring 40, he's scoring 60, and now all of a sudden he's in this season where he's got 42 goals, and he is, or not 42 now. It should be above 42, I
45.
believe, but 45, yeah,
He's 45. Yeah.
45, yeah. But like 45th goal of the season, and he's ripping one-timers from like 2 feet above the goal line at the side of the net, like. He's just showed this crazy versatility, continues to add to his bag, continues to add to how he can score, how he can be impactful, how he can change things. The amount of shots that he put up here tonight, how dangerous he was. Marner's pass to him was pretty gross too, like just getting it into the exact right spot from a vertical where you're coming down ice, like it's not coming across into your wheelhouse. That thing's coming down at you, and you're finding a way to get that one off on the one time, putting it exactly where you want. It was a great pass by Marner, great pass by him on the first play. That's my play of the game, and my second one, which I'm sure you're gonna love here, and this is my honorable mention, Benoit's hit. Like,
Yeah, for sure.
I love that hit. It's not something we see very often as Leafs fans for the last little while. Like you saw that kind of come into play a little bit when Muzzin got brought here. Obviously wasn't here for too long based on injury stuff, or didn't play too many games based on injury. We saw it a little bit when Lyubushkin was here. Now, mind you, I think his defensive play kind of lacked a little bit, but people were in love with the fact that he would lay bod. It was great to see. Shen would do it a little bit. I'm just like, this guy's just a consistent, reliable player. You know exactly what you're going to get, even if he's a meat and potatoes guy where unseasoned, but it's like, hey, every single night the steak's cooked medium rare and potatoes are going to taste the exact same as they tasted the night before. And I don't care because you give me
Great
that every
analogy.
night. I don't need to be blown away here, brother. I just want something that is going to fill me up and I'm happy with when I'm eating it. And that's what Simone Benoit brings me every single night. So
Do you ever hear him get interviewed? He acts
yes,
exactly the
yes.
same way. He's just like with his mullet and mustache. Like he's like,
Yeah.
that's my job, right? He's like, this is
Yeah,
what
like
I
I don't score goals. Like I'm gonna hit guys and block shots. Perfect.
Yeah.
That's all I want, brother. That's all I want. That's gonna be that's my honorable mention. To everyone in the chat
Nice.
right now who hasn't already, please hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel. Still trying to get to 2,500 subscribers as well. On top of that, I want to get to 100 likes here before we sign off on the stream here tonight. But
Hit
Rob,
the like button,
you know,
guys and gals.
thank you, Rob. Hit that like button. You know how this works. We close this one out. Grades of the game.
You want answers? I think I'm entitled. You want answers? I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
All right. Grade of the game. Again, you take the floor here first. You let me know what you're thinking. I got my grade. I also want to see everyone in the chat's grades. So let us know what you guys are thinking in the chat here as well. But Rob, floor is yours. What's your grade of the game?
I don't want to be too critical, but a C plus. I think maybe it's a little high, but that's what I have to give. Just because the win was there. There is some highlights as there normally is, right? It's like a Leaf game, as we said earlier. So I think a C plus is maybe a bit high, but I'm going to go with that. It's definitely not in the B or A region. Sorry. So that's what I'm going to stick with for tonight. Not exactly happy, but that might be reflective of the overall feeling of the team itself.
Okay, interesting. You're kind of far off from where the chat's at right now as well too, which I think is interesting. But I'm slightly higher than you, which I'm a little bit surprised about. I was contemplating like the B minus. I don't know what my official grade is yet. Let me talk through this one and then maybe I'll give you that. But I'm in the B minus range. I think the first period, truthfully, like it was not great. I think that the second period was like, that's your best player being your best player, and that was your second best player being your probably is your second best player, Mitch Marner, being your second best player. They stepped into it. They kind of upped the ante a little bit. They started kind of taking over. They felt dangerous when they went out on the ice. They started to kind of turn things around. I don't think Samsonov had a bad night by any means, so I was happy about that. There were some dumb penalties. I think Brody looked a step behind again. I think I think that Giordano, looked a step behind. Liljegren still has just been very like meh to me. Like he's there.
Does he not scare you a little bit?
More.
He kind of does. He's starting to like give me that unsure feeling, you know? I feel like he's gonna make a mistake, or not all the time, maybe I'm being overcritical, but like I feel like you can't rely on him, basically, right? Is what I'm saying.
Yeah, and I wonder how much of that has to do with like the fall off of Giordano, because part of it is like think about when Gio got here, how well him and Gio played together, and that was because of how stable, in my opinion, that was because of how stable Gio was alongside of him. So now you're kind of getting that like, hey, veteran presence, stability, helps the young guy kind of fit in, start to figure out his role, get comfortable, and now it's like Keefe just was like, okay, we don't trust this guy. Put him in the stands. Blah blah blah. And then it was like, okay, now he comes back and he makes one mistake, set him down. Oh, now he comes back and he scores a goal. Give him some more. Like it was like, holy fuck! Like we're like so yo-yoing on this guy. And then now all of a sudden Gio's not that great and he doesn't have the best partner in the world to like support him. And it's like, oh, Liljegren's scaring me. I don't think it's a crazy take by you. It's just kind of like crazy that we got here. You know what I mean? It's like how the hell did this happen? Like I think if you gave him the opportunity to continue to develop and build confidence, it wouldn't have been this bad. But
yeah, I liked him before, to be honest.
Yeah. And BRGR, I think this is a good point, or Burger, or however you want to say that. I'm sorry, but he says Lily is haunted by the ghost of Jake Gardner. I kind of see that to a degree. Like that's actually probably a pretty good point. I think I'm gonna finalize this one at a B minus. Like now, talking through it, just thinking about it, it's just as like I hate these blown leads. I hate this happening. Yeah. This is a pattern with this team for 7 years, 8 years of like you can't hold leads. You can't trust them to hold leads. You go missing in periods. You can't play a full 60. You're at home. You should have been able to find a way to close this out.
Why is it always 3-1 too? Why is it 3-1 all the time?
It is better 3-1 than 4-1 . So that's
no, I know, but it's a 3-1 is no for sure. But 3-1 is their thing.
I know, but I just, I don't know, man. Like close games. Why do you go to blow leads? It makes me lose my mind. Blow lead at B minus. All right, well, that's where we come in on this one. Rob, I appreciate you calling in. Appreciate you giving your thoughts.
Anytime.
Before you go
Pleasure
here,
as always.
Any final thoughts? Any predictions? What do you got for me?
Let's just keep going in the winning direction. At least we're putting a good effort and bring some consistency.
Points on the board.
Yeah, some points on the board and keeping the Leafs, I guess, because, it could turn around a little bit, but I don't imagine it being dramatic. And maybe, we'll see going into the playoffs. Like, we're making playoffs for sure, but let's just see how it goes. They're just unpredictable. You can't figure out what's going on with them, to be honest. Like, you can't. It's going to be
No, Rob. They are predictable. They are predictably
but
unpredictable.
No, exactly. Like, but they can pull some stuff out where you're like, oh, like, what's going on? They're doing pretty good now, and you get a little bit of confidence, and then it just starts again, So
yeah.
Anyways, that can happen in the playoffs, is my point, right? So let's get there, keep on the same track, and then we'll be all right.
Yep, that's fair. Pucks in deep, pucks on net, and let's win some hockey games. Rob,
There you go.
thank you for calling in. I appreciate you taking
All
the
right,
time
man.
to do this. Look forward to hearing
Pleasure
from
as
you
always.
again. Let's not make it as long this time. Call
No,
in
for
again
sure.
soon.
I'll call in
Hopefully.
again soon. All right, man. Have a
Perfect.
good one. Appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Rob. Enjoy the rest of your night.
Cheers. You too.
There you go. There is a caller to help break us down the game here tonight. We do appreciate everyone who calls in, participates in the chat, super chats, likes, subscribes, all that kind of stuff. I appreciate all the support from you guys. So thank you very much. Let's continue to get this stream rocking, this channel rocking. Continue to like the streams, subscribe to the channel. I appreciate all the support. Big things coming. Let's keep it going here. Thanks to Rob for calling in here tonight. Thanks everyone in the chat for participating. That's going to do it for me here tonight. The Leafs win this one 4-3 in overtime after blowing a 3-1 lead in the third period to the Philadelphia Flyers. But you find a way to get it done. Auston Matthews, 45 goals on the season, his 5th hat trick. He's now 76 goals away from Matt Sundin and about 449 less games played. Pretty cool there. Pretty cool stuff there from Auston Matthews. So shout out to him. The greatest Leaf of all time. The GOAT. Thanks to everyone for tuning in here tonight. Hopefully you enjoyed the show. If you did, hit the like button. If you didn't, drop a comment below and let me know anyways. I want to hear the feedback. I look forward to seeing it. Thank you guys so much for the support. This has been game 52 of the Toronto Maple Leafs regular season, defeating the Philadelphia Flyers 4-3 here tonight in overtime, moving to 28, 16, and 8. Thanks so much for tuning in. And as always, keep moving.